The story begins inside a crumbling old house buried in silence and poverty. But tonight, that silence is shattered by screams. A group of ruthless loan sharks are violently beating a helpless couple. One of them presses a burning hot iron against the man's lap, scorching his skin while blood drips from his mouth. Trembling in fear, the man desperately begs for mercy. "Please, just give me one more month. I swear I'll pay everything back." But the gang leader only smirks. Holding the glowing iron in his hand, he coldly replies, "If you borrowed from someone else too, then sell your organs. That's what real people do when they need to repay debt." Then, without hesitation, he grabs the man by the throat and slowly raises the burning iron toward his face. "You two deserve to feel some pain too," he says with a twisted grin. "Only then will you understand how it feels when people don't get their money back." But just before the iron touches him, the leader notices something strange. The man's wife is shaking uncontrollably, secretly doing something on her phone. Instantly, he snatches it away. "What are you doing? Calling the cops? Or trying to contact a dead man?" But the moment he looks at the screen, his expression changes. She wasn't calling the police. She was texting her son. "Mom, where are you? I can't reach you." And right before the loan shark grabbed the phone, she had typed one final message. "Son, don't come home." But the message was never sent. The leader suddenly bursts into laughter. A cruel idea has just entered his mind. "Killing you two would be boring," he says. "But your son? Now that sounds fun." The couple immediately breaks down, begging them not to involve their child. But no one listens. The gang leader orders his men to shut them up and tie them against the wall. "No screaming," he says. "We don't want the boy getting scared before he walks in." And then the front door opens. Their son has arrived. A high school student named Kang Sun-woo, the true hero of this story. The moment he steps inside, his mother's eyes fill with tears. Her mouth is gagged, but she desperately tries to warn him not to come any closer. Unfortunately, it's already too late. Sun-woo calmly walks into the room while the gangsters surround him. He casually removes his shoes, adjusts his backpack, and says in a completely normal voice, "I'm home." But before he can even process the situation, bam! One of the thugs smashes a metal rod directly into his head. His mother freezes in horror. She thinks her son is dead. But in the very next second, everyone's faces turn pale. Sun-woo slowly grabs the attacker by the shoulder and throws a punch so horrifying that the man's entire face caves in instantly. The impact is so brutal that it barely even looks human anymore. The entire room falls silent. Even the gang leader starts sweating. At that moment, he realizes something terrifying. This kid isn't normal. Panicking, he screams at his men. "Everyone attack him at once. Kill him if you have to." One thug charges first, but Sun-woo effortlessly dodges the attack and instantly counters with a devastating blow straight to another man's ribs. Crack! Several ribs shatter instantly. The thug drops his weapon and gasps for air in agony. But Sun-woo doesn't stop there. He punches the exact same spot again with even more force. This time, the ribs completely collapse. Another attacker rushes in. Sun-woo grabs his leg and snaps it apart with a brutal kick. Bones break like glass. 3 men are already down. Then another idiot tries attacking with a chair. He swings it directly at Sun-woo's head. The chair lands perfectly, but it does absolutely nothing. Sun-woo slowly turns toward him, and before the thug can react, boom! He gets slammed so hard that his body flies into the wall before collapsing unconscious. Now the gang leader is completely terrified. None of this makes sense anymore. Desperate, he thinks maybe he can still threaten Sun-woo using his parents. But the moment he looks up, Sun-woo is already standing in front of him, holding the same burning iron. In pure panic, the leader tries to escape. Too late. Sun-woo grabs his head and forcefully slams him against the wall with the burning iron pressed against his face. Crack! His neck snaps instantly. And just like that, every single gangster is down. The room finally falls silent. Sun-woo stands there breathing heavily, barely able to stay conscious. Then he walks over to his parents and unties them. Before collapsing, he quietly says, "If we weren't poor, I would never have needed to fight." And with those final words, he faints. A few hours later, multiple ambulances rush injured gang members to the hospital. The emergency room is pure chaos. Men scream in pain while doctors struggle under extreme pressure trying to save them. Near the reception desk, a man wearing glasses watches the scene unfold. Calmly, he asks a nurse, "What exactly happened here?" The nurse answers without hesitation. A single high school student destroyed an entire gangster group by himself. The man's eyes widen in disbelief. Right in front of him, the loan shark boss is wheeled past on a stretcher with a neck brace locked around his throat. Barely conscious, the boss grabs one of his underlings and growls, "Find that bastard and kill him." But the underling smirks confidently. "That won't be necessary," he says. "The kid's already admitted in this hospital." Then he leans closer and adds with a grin, "And Black Bear just went to visit him." The moment the man with glasses hears that name, his expression completely changes. Because if Black Bear is involved, then that boy may not survive the night. The moment he heard the name Black Bear, the man with glasses froze. Without wasting a second, he turned to the nurse. "What room is that high school student in?" "Room 202. Before she could say anything else, he was already moving. He sprinted past the emergency ward and rushed toward room 202. As he ran, countless thoughts raced through his mind. If this is the same Black Bear I'm thinking of, then he's one of the top fighting candidates in the entire region. I need to see this with my own eyes. I need to know how strong he really is. When he finally reached the room, he stopped outside the door and quietly peeked inside. He could have entered. He could have stopped what was about to happen. But curiosity won. Part of him felt sorry for Sun-woo, yet a much stronger part wanted to witness Black Bear's true strength. Inside the room, Sun-woo was still connected to an IV drip, standing beside his hospital bed despite his injuries. Across from him stood Black Bear. The giant gangster scratched his neck and muttered to himself, "I thought they were calling me in for for a real threat. He looked Sun-woo up and down. This is just some high school kid. Then he smiled. Don't take it personally. I've got debts to collect too. His grin widened. But you're interesting. Most people start shaking the moment they see me. You aren't scared at all. He slowly stepped forward. Come on, let me show you what real fear looks like. Unfortunately for him, Sun-woo had no intention of waiting. The instant Black Bear moved, Sun-woo fired a lightning-fast jab, but Black Bear was even faster. Slap! His hand exploded across Sun-woo's face. The impact was so ridiculous that Sun-woo flew to the ground like a bug being swatted out of the air. Blood spilled from his mouth as he crashed onto the floor. Watching from outside, the man with glasses couldn't help but feel impressed. That speed. Black Bear definitely lives up to the rumors. Meanwhile, Black Bear laughed. Kid, you can act tough all you want, but if you challenge me with your eyes wide open like that, you're always going to end up on the floor. But then, something unexpected happened. Everyone's eyes widened. Slowly, very slowly, Sun-woo stood back up. He wiped the blood from his mouth and stared directly at Black Bear. You talk way too much for someone who hasn't done anything. The room instantly became silent. Black Bear's smile disappeared. For a brief moment, irritation flashed across his face. Then excitement replaced it, because this was exactly what he loved. A fearless opponent. Outside the room, the man with glasses became serious. He could feel it now. Black Bear wasn't here to intimidate Sun-woo. He genuinely intended to kill him. Before he could step in, whoosh! Black Bear launched forward, but Sun-woo dodged the first strike perfectly. And then, bang! A powerful kick slammed directly into Black Bear's face. The man with glasses nearly fell backward in shock. He had never imagined seeing anyone knock Black Bear off balance. The giant gangster stumbled, but quickly planted a hand on the floor to stop himself from falling completely. The observer let out a small sigh of relief. After all, Black Bear was known across the country as the physical king. There was no way he would go down that easily. Black Bear laughed. You actually thought a high schooler's kick could bang! Before he could finish speaking, Sun-woo's fist smashed directly into his face. This time there was no recovery. Black Bear's face slammed into the floor. He was down. Now even the man with glasses couldn't believe what he was seeing. This is impossible. But Sun-woo wasn't finished. Not even close. Punch after punch rained down like a storm. Each strike crashed into Black Bear's face with terrifying force. It wasn't a fight anymore. It looked like a punishment. Blood sprayed across the floor as the giant gangster struggled beneath him. Finally, Black Bear managed to wrap both arms around Sun-woo's waist. Then he squeezed hard. Sun-woo's body immediately tensed. Black Bear grinned. Using this on a high school kid is embarrassing. His grip tightened even further. But now the fun begins. The man with glasses instantly recognized the technique. His expression changed. The Bone Crusher, one of Black Bear's most feared finishing moves. A hold that had broken countless opponents. A move almost nobody escaped from. For the first time, he thought he might have to intervene. But then, something impossible happened again. Sun-woo was still moving. Black Bear frowned. His grip should have crushed bones by now. So why wasn't it working? Using every ounce of strength left in his body, Sun-woo forced himself upright. And then, crack! He slammed his forehead directly into Black Bear's face. The brutal headbutt sent a shockwave through the room. Black Bear instantly loosened his grip. For a moment, he genuinely wondered if Sun-woo had metal implanted inside his skull. But Sun-woo wasn't finished. Not yet. Crack! Another headbutt. Crack! Another one. Crack! And another. Black Bear's skull split open. Teeth shattered. His face became an unrecognizable mess. The relentless impacts continued until, stop! The man with glasses finally burst into the room. He's already unconscious! Sun-woo paused. The man quickly added, calm down. If you keep going, cleaning this up is going to become a nightmare. Immediately, he pulled out his phone. Room 202, Building B. Severe head trauma from a car accident. Get here now. As he spoke, Sun-woo swayed unsteadily. His body was finally reaching its limit. At that exact moment, several masked individuals entered the room. Their movements were precise and professional. They immediately began lifting Black Bear's unconscious body. One of the masked men approached the man with glasses. Status confirmed. Should we wrap everything up? The man nodded calmly. Make sure Black Bear doesn't regain consciousness for a while. Understood. The masked operative gave a short nod. And just like that, the cleanup operation began. But for the man with glasses, one thing was now crystal clear. The boy standing in front of him wasn't just another talented fighter. He had just defeated a monster that countless professionals feared. And that meant Sun-woo's life was about to change forever. As the cleanup crew finished their work, Sun-woo remained seated on the hospital bed, staring blankly ahead. His mind was still trying to process everything that had just happened. Who are these people? The mysterious man with glasses stepped forward and handed him a business card. The contact on this card belongs to someone who can give you everything you've ever wanted. Sun-woo accepted the card, but he had absolutely no idea what the man was talking about. The man continued, all you have to do is fight for the person you serve. For a moment, the room fell silent. Then Sun-woo clenched the card in his fist. Get lost. Without hesitation, he tossed it straight into a nearby trash can. I don't need to fight to make money, and for all I know, this could be some kind of scam. With that, he walked out of the room. The man with glasses didn't follow him. Instead, he simply smiled to himself. People change their minds when they're desperate enough. A few minutes later, Sun-woo stood alone in the men's restroom, splashing cold water onto his face. Staring into the mirror, he muttered bitterly, "Damn it, no matter how messed up my life gets, I should have at least kept Mom's wish." His reflection stared back at him. She only wanted one thing, for me to stop getting into fights. At that moment, the restroom door opened. His father walked inside. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "And where do you think you're going in this condition?" The question instantly ignited Sun-woo's anger. "Seriously?" He turned around sharply. "Why don't you tell me who's responsible for all of this?" His father's expression hardened, but he remained silent. Sun-woo's voice grew louder. "You were a boxing champion. Then how did you end up drowning in debt? You had opportunities. People wanted you." He stepped closer. "Or are you going to tell me your stupid pride was more important than your family?" His fists trembled. "I still don't even know why you got kicked off the national team. But was that worthless pride really more important than Mom? More important than her being sick and suffering every day?" The words struck harder than any punch. His father said nothing, because he had no answer. After several painful seconds, he simply turned around and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he quietly said, "Don't go anywhere. Stay in the hospital." Then he left. Sun-woo stood there alone. A strange dizziness suddenly washed over him. His vision blurred. He almost collapsed. Quickly sitting down on the floor, he grabbed his head. A sharp headache stabbed through his skull. What the hell? He couldn't understand what was happening. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was lack of sleep. But somehow, it felt different. The pain always seemed to appear whenever he thought about his father. Because deep down, he hated him. He hated watching him come home injured. He hated seeing him bow his head to the parents of school bullies after every fight. Most of all, he hated believing that his father had failed their family. And yet, no matter how much he blamed him, Sun-woo couldn't escape the feeling that he was sinking too. As a high school student, changing his life felt impossible. He couldn't even legally work on deep-sea fishing boats. Every day was a struggle just to cover basic expenses. The delivery motorcycle he'd relied on for work had been destroyed because he refused to play along with local bullies. The debt kept growing. His mother was sick. His father was broken. And he couldn't even run away because he couldn't abandon her. His life felt like a bottomless pit. Then, everything went black. When Sun-woo opened his eyes again, he found himself lying in another hospital room. A pounding headache echoed through his skull. Confused, he looked around. He couldn't even remember being moved. Pulling out his phone, he checked how long he'd been unconscious. But the moment he saw a text message from his father, his mood instantly dropped. Slowly, he opened it. The message read, "The time has finally come for me to tell you everything." Sun-woo's eyes widened. Everything? What else was his father hiding? Before thinking any further, he decided to check on his mother. He immediately called his father. The call connected. "How's Mom?" Sun-woo asked. Instead of answering directly, his father said something far more alarming. "Don't come home." Sun-woo froze. "There are gangsters hiding there. They're dangerous." His father explained that he had arranged for Sun-woo to be transferred to another room under a different name so nobody could find him. Panic instantly filled Sun-woo's chest. "Then where's Mom?" "Near the police station," his father replied. "She's hiding in a motel. She's safe." There was a pause. Then his father lowered his voice. "I can't talk much longer. Just stay where you are." The call ended. For several moments, Sun-woo sat in silence. Then guilt began crushing him from the inside. If I hadn't fought those gangsters, none of this would have happened. Determined, he made a decision. The first thing he would do was find his mother. But just as he stood up to leave, his phone rang again. "Caller ID. Dad." He answered instantly. But the voice on the other end wasn't his father's. "Are you Mr. Kang Sun-woo?" The man's voice sounded nervous. "Yes. Who is this?" There was a brief silence. Then came the words that shattered everything. "Something terrible has happened. Your father collapsed. He's unconscious." "What?" "His condition is critical." The man continued. "He was involved in a workplace accident. Multiple bones are broken. Several ribs are shattered." A cold chill ran down Sun-woo's spine. Hours later, inside the intensive care unit, Sun-woo stood beside his father's hospital bed. His father was completely unconscious, covered in injuries, connected to countless machines. The doctor approached with a grim expression. "The surgery will be extremely difficult." Sun-woo swallowed hard. "How much?" The doctor's answer felt like a death sentence. "The surgery alone will cost over 100 million won. And that's before rehabilitation and long-term treatment." The room suddenly felt suffocating. 100 million won, an amount so enormous that it might as well have been impossible. Tears slowly streamed down Sun-woo's face. His mind went completely blank. Where would he get that kind of money? How could he possibly save his father? Then, a memory flashed through his mind. A business card. The one he had thrown away. The card belonging to the mysterious man. Without wasting another second, Sun-woo spun around and sprinted out of the ICU. He ran through the hospital corridors as fast as his injured body would allow, because for the first time, that business card might be his family's only hope.